Hello, Toku Nation. This is LX here with a pretty big update for 2015. Our little channel is going through some pretty big changes. So longtime fans have probably already figured this out, but my release schedule is a little odd. I'll go months without anything, and then suddenly drop a dozen videos in your lap. My thinking was, well, quite frankly, just release it all. They can peruse it at their leisure. Average it out to a video a day. They have enough to last dry periods. Sounds simple enough, right? Unfortunately, YouTube does not work that way. If I release 12 videos in a day and you watch 2, maybe 3, YouTube thinks you're not really interested in when the next 12 drop in a few weeks. You simply won't see it in your feed. See the video in the annotation here. And description below by MatPat of Game Theories for a much better explanation. So, with that in mind, going forward, all new videos will be unlisted when bulk uploaded. They will still be in 1080p, as always. Don't worry about that part. And you will see them. But now I'm taking direct control over their release, so you see them as I intended, which is basically a couple each day, 3 at most, with them basically going from the private unlisted channel, private unlisted listing, to public, every few days. I'll unlock a few. Meaning that instead of getting 1/4 of the total videos actually showing up in your feed, you should, in theory, get all of the videos showing up in your feed, and you'll have a consistent stream of content every day. All much better all around, don't you think? I thought so. Anyway, that's why I did it. And considering that I have access to the metrics of the views, that's what it seems like it would work. Much more manageable as a standard user, I would think anyway. You just, get a couple videos each day instead of 12, and then you get nothing and whatever. Anyway, and it gives more than just a few minutes. And it gives me more than just a few minutes. I'm uploading each video. I upload the videos in bulk, upload 12 at once, and you only have a few minutes because YouTube's kind of finicky with the uploading system, that if you don't get the description in and, well, mainly it's description in the title, but if you don't get those two in by the time it finishes uploading, but before it begins processing, the upload can fail, which is never a good thing. And then I end up having to re-upload them, and so on and so forth. And, along with this new direction the channel is taking, I am going to only mention Patreon in these attribute videos, so we won't see a little Patreon plug at the bottom of all of my descriptions of my videos. Hopefully that will please some people. The Patreon is not going away, it will still exist. You can find a link to it right up there on my main page, along with all of my other social media accounts. If you're fans of, I know you're fans because I can see the metrics of, say, the fanfic writing process. I have my link to fanfiction.net up on the top bar of my intro channel. So you can see where I put that. You can see where I put Gokaiger Plus. You can see where I put my previous epic fanfic, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, Rangers in Retrograde. You can see where I put the Ben 10 Unlucky Girl story. You can see I've done a Marvel DC crossover starring Tigra and Cheetah. I did, I don't think I have my Digimon one up there, because that one kind of got lost when I lost it on a computer ages ago. But there's a bunch of stuff that I've written up there, all 20, 30 chapters long. Lots of big content. Like, you know me from my fanfics. All my fanfic people know I write very long, very drawn-out fanfics. Well, not drawn-out in a bad sense, but, they're long stories. They have many, many chapters. And, of course, you can find my other social media forums there. You can find my Twitter, my Twitch, my Bookface. All of them are up there. Now, I know what you're saying. I like the old method. I like to binge watch. Well, considering I have access to the metrics, I know that's a bold-faced lie, because no one did that. Absolutely no one. So hopefully this will be more engaging to you people. I am trying to make a more engaging channel for my viewers. I know there's only 41 of you at the time of this recording, so I'm hoping that this will get you to enjoy the content more and get less of it dropped by YouTube. So you'll actually see it all. That said, those of you who do donate to my Patreon with the minimum of $5 will have access to all of those unlisted videos. So if you do enjoy binge watching, if there's one or two of you that the metrics aren't reflecting, and you actually do enjoy the binge watching, become a Patreon, $5 a month. You will have access to all of those scheduled uploads as soon as they are uploaded, and you can see them before they are pushed out to the live channel. But, now, you're forcing us to use Patreon just to see your content. Unsubscribe. No, actually not. Because like I said, my original intention was that you would watch 2 or 3 a day, and you would just basically manage it yourself. I'm managing it for you, but I'm keeping the original, but since the original method has basically become obsolescent, if you want the old obsolescent method, then you become a Patreon subscriber. And being a Patreon subscriber does have other benefits, of course. I've mentioned this before. It's, if you're a Patreon subscriber, whenever I get rid of stuff in my collection, then whatever price I paid for it, your Patreon contributions directly reduce that. So when I do a sale, if I'm going to sell, say, this Core i5 processor that's going into my new rig when I upgrade whenever, then whatever I paid for this, you pay for that. It's your Patreon subscriptions basically used as a discount on that, and then you just pay shipping and the difference. Or, for example, I have in the other room, which you might be able to see from here, a laptop I refurbished. I put maybe $50 of work in that, if you want it. Then whatever your Patreon amount minus 50 is directly applied to that, and you can get a laptop. Similarly, yes, I'm reading from a script. I wanted to make sure I was doing this right. Since I am building my new laptop, as you can see here, I'll eventually be getting rid of my Lenovo here, and my Dell. That Dell there is my streaming rig. That's the one that I've been streaming Toku Power Weekend on for the last 45 weeks. Now, it does have some problems. I will freely admit that. As you can see, when we go on the side, all of the ports have collapsed on the inside, but it does work. You just can't plug anything but a SD card into it. But it works. As you can see, the HDMI port goes to my TV just fine. And so I will be getting rid of this onto my Patreon. I will probably, considering I paid about $2K for it, it does have a GPU in it. It's a high-end gaming PC. But since all the ports have collapsed, I will probably put it onto my Patreon sellers list for $500. And then, of course, if you're a patron, then your sub, it's $500 minus however much you have put into the Patreon, plus shipping, if you want that. And basically, that's one of the big benefits of the Patreon. That's been the policy ever since I started the Patreon, that whenever I get rid of stuff, you can get that stuff, minus your contribution, Patreon contribution. It basically consider when you give to my Patreon as a gift card, and when you want something that I am getting rid of, you spend that gift card, and then you make up the difference. So that's basically how I've decided to structure and have been structuring my Patreon. Moving on, however, being a Patreon does have some additional benefits. There is a ton, an absolute ton of stuff. And you've probably heard me mention it. Cosplay Corner, you've probably heard me mention my game, Shizou, the official game of the TV show Shizou. I've spoken to Obi Scott Ward. I've told you that I am a Wii U third-party developer. I've mentioned all these things. I've told you about JAG, Just a Game, my post-apocalyptic fantasy RPG. All these things are in very early stages of development. And as a patron, since it's all bundled under the same field that my channel focuses on, you will have early access to any new material that I don't feel I'm quite ready to release. Like, for example, when you watch the vlogs for Just a Game, I state right in the beginning of every vlog that I don't want to release a vlog until I feel that there is enough of a content update that it can justify publicly showing it off. Same thing with when you go to the Steam page, and which you can actually find again in the top, my Steam page, which has a link to my Steam profile if you want to add me as a friend, or if you want to see Just a Game, because that will be in my workshop. So if you want to check out that and download the current working alpha, which again is still very early development, it's just a character creator, but it's the current most stable build I feel capable of releasing to the public. So, and I'm working on stuff behind the scenes. There's stuff I've done that I haven't uploaded to Steam yet. So there's that stuff, but you won't see it because I'm still working on it. However, if you're a patron, I'll have a series of videos on what I'm currently working on. This is stuff that I am not ready to debut, to the public yet. But as a patron, you get to see these things as they're developing. There's a lot of stuff like that that I have. I've done a ton of research, like stuff for Cosplay Corner. Those of you who've known me for a few years, who've heard me talk about this, I don't have a video up on this, unfortunately, because I didn't have my camera that day. Or maybe I did. I'll have to check my logs. Well, actually, I can't, because if I remember correctly, I did have my camera, I did record it, but I didn't get the permission by the other students in the class to release it. Anyway, so I had, for a speech class, I talked about Toei and Bandai and Saban and the entire process of how you make this show, and how 90% of the time the Lady Power Rangers, Lady Sentai, Lady Riders are played by a male stunt actor. So I started doing, and then of course I had my English paper, which is actually up on my YouTube, where I talked about Bandai as a toy company and the starting of Super Sentai and all that. So as I was doing all these things, the next logical step was, well, if you have male stunt actors playing female characters, how do they reasonably pass themselves off as a female character for a stunt performance, since they have to be able to match to the female actress who is the unmorphed footage. So I started looking into that. How would you, as a actor who's trying to staff your show, your action show, and all you have is male stunt actors, but you've got a 2/5 female breakdown of your action stars? Well, you've got to be able to make them look at least convincingly enough like the female actress, right? So I did research on how that does, but I'm not ready to release it because I'm not done with the research. There's still some steps that I've gone back on. There's some stuff that I've researched, but I've got some products to review in those things, but they're not ready for final review because I haven't made my final decisions on those. So those would also be available to the patrons. You'd see the stuff as it's developing. You'd see the process. And yes, I will make mistakes in those videos. Really big mistakes. Like, maybe a month later I'll say, well, that thing that I was reviewing and analyzing and studying a month ago, I discovered really wasn't the best choice, wasn't the best option for this particular project, for this particular thing. So forget that. And this new thing that I found over the last month is actually the much better option. That's why I don't want to release it as a full video, because I may end up going back and re-editing it later. But as a patron, you'd have access to everything of all those steps, all those things along the way and this is a new feature. I haven't up doing this for my Patreon because I really didn't think there'd be much of an interest in it. But I figured if I'm going to be changing around the marketing, well, not the marketing, the scheduling of the shows, that I could do this. I could release them since they'd be set as private and unlisted videos. Patrons would be the only ones who would have access to it, and then you would have all this behind-the-scenes research, so you could move forward with your own studies. I actually got this idea a couple of weeks ago when I was talking with the World of Ha. Hassan Ahmed. I hope I'm pronouncing his name. I'm terrible with names. How he was talking about on his vlog how he wanted to do cosplay, but he had no idea on what you do if you want to get a good costume, how you get a costume fit. Well, I'd done the research. I've been sitting on the research for months, but I wasn't ready to debut a video. And I got to thinking, this could probably benefit someone. Even though the research is incomplete, it could benefit someone. But at the same time, I don't want to release incomplete material to my channel. So, instead, it will be released unlisted as works in progress to my patrons. Simple enough, right? And then when the project is finished, when I actually feel confident that, yes, I've got all the material I need, I know what to say about how to do crossplay, or I know the best way to measure yourself for a costume, or I know what costume vendors are the best bang for your buck, that type of stuff, then I release the full feature video with all the research compiled. Make sense? And that's, of course, available to everyone. It's the edited, compiled, final result, as opposed to all the little snippets of, what I'm working, all the little snippets of how I got here, which is what the patrons have access to. The patrons have behind-the-scenes raw footage. And, of course, all videos will eventually be released. It's just on a more structured timetable. For example, honestly, how many of you watched the Power Sunday Week 28 to 39 teasers that I released last week? That was 12 videos I uploaded back to back, all 1 minute long. I know, because I made the videos. No audio, 1 minute. So you take 12 minutes and you walk through them all. I can see the metrics myself. At the time, this week, January 25th, is only week 27 of Power Sunday, and I had already released up till the teasers for episode 39. Again, my intention was, you'll watch maybe 26, which would have been last week when they were all released, 27 and 28, get an idea of what, because we as fans all love to see what the future episodes are going to be. But do you really want to know what's going to happen in the semifinal? Probably not. Not when you're only at the mid-season finale, right? But I released them anyway because, again, my philosophy was I'll release everything and let people dole them out as they see fit over the over the allotted time. But that's not really working. No one's really watching them. I know people are interested in them. I hear comments on my Facebook, on my Twitter. I hear people saying the videos that they do watch, they do enjoy. But looking at the actual metrics, the numbers rise as we get closer to a week. Like, for example, this is week 20. This is week 27. Week 26 was last week. So the week 26 videos have been seeing a steady increase in viewers, but week 39 has practically no viewers because no one really cares about now at the end of January when I'm going to be airing at the end of May. On Sunday, So those videos, that content will be basically unlisted, and every day I'll unlock a couple more. It's a lot more reasonable for a person to look at my playlist, look at my schedule in their subscription list, see, okay, I've got 3 videos. They're all relatively recent. None of them is dealing with 3 months in the future. Stuff they're not even going to see for 3 months. Far more reasonable of something someone will watch, right? That's my theory. That's what I'm going with. That's why we're going with this new philosophy. But again, if you're a patron, you can see it all. If that's your thing, you can see it all. I know it's no one's thing, but whatever. And again, Patreon is going to be restricted to just these announcements. So you won't see it in the bottom of every new video. So rejoice, I guess. I don't know. I get no feedback on my channel, so I don't know really what you guys like. I'm basing this upon the metrics and little things here and there. So I'm hoping this is all stuff you like because I'm shooting in the dark and I have nothing to work with aside from guessing what you like. That said, for some other examples of stuff that will be in the work in progress section that will be going up to the Patreon soon as I film it, since again I haven't been filming it because it's behind the scenes research and I didn't want to spend the time filming and researching it and releasing it because it wasn't finalized. But for example, there are a ton of things that I have lots of research and that I can make, and I have lots of research for. 5 minutes here, 7 minutes there, that'll all end up going into a major, large video at the end of, 6 months, whenever I feel like I've got all the data. For example, you're probably noticing that I'm sitting in a chair. You're probably sitting in a chair. I already mentioned, I'm looking at my script for anything that I should remember to mention to you so I don't forget anything. You probably sit in a chair all day. You have back or bum problems. Well, I have found in my research for unrelated projects things that are actually really useful for taking care of that soreness in your bum when you're sitting in a chair for 6 hours, or that pain in your back from sitting in a chair for 6 hours. But they're kind of small little subjects, and they're not really and they came out of the research of other things, so they'd be the side note of my Cosplay Corner, since they came out of the research for Cosplay Corner. So I end up releasing them in Cosplay Corner and say, oh, and by the way, you can use this for this. But under this new regime, they'll be available as little mini videos, unreleased, for my patrons, because they're small segments that are addendums to a larger segment that will eventually come out, and whenever it comes out, when I'm ready and it's finished and everything. Maybe you have one of the less ideal body shapes for. Maybe you have a less ideal body shape. You're not the most athletic and perfect person like Sam is. Maybe you have more of a body like me or Shuken Shinobi, because I think we all can admit I am not the most fit of people in the world, and believe me, I have worked out in the past. But when your knees have a tendency to give out at random, and you've taken very nasty spills down staircases because of it, you tend to be very cautious about how you work out. And I've gone to a doctor, I've seen a doctor, I've seen a physical therapist, I've had CAT scans in my knees, and I still can't find a solution. So, but still, I want to cosplay, but, can you imagine someone with my build going to Morphicon? Seriously. You really see me in all my glory going in spandex to Power Morphicon 2016. However, there are ways that you can get around that. I have found ways that you can reshape your body. It's a temporary means. It is certainly not a permanent means, but it does slim you down. And then, once your body is slimmed down, you can get a costume fit for that, and it's not uncomfortable slimming. It's not like the old 1918 or whatever it was, when you get a girdle and you couldn't breathe, and that's what the fainting couches were built for. No, these, I've actually tested them. They're very comfortable, work very well, and they still slim you down 2 or 3 sizes. So, and if you slim yourself down 2 or 3 sizes and put on a spandex suit, you'll certainly look a lot more presentable than putting on a spandex suit and looking the way that people like us look. So I have that, and that would be a segment of my larger Cosplay Corner. But Patreons would have access to that small segment before it's ready to be integrated with everything else. See what I'm going with? Basically, being a patron gives you access to stuff that will be in a much larger video later on, or stuff that I'm not quite ready for, or stuff that isn't been fully baked, so to speak. Speaking of baking, for example, fans of Culinary Corner, if you're following my Twitter, you've seen my various food porn pictures where I posted literally what I'm eating today, and it's usually always homemade because I have professional culinary training. I spent 2.5 years taking culinary classes at Lake Tahoe Community College. I was pursuing my associate's degree in computer science, not my associate's degree in culinary arts, and I got my associate's in computer science first, so I moved up here to Sacramento to pursue my bachelor's in computer science and formed the Game Developers Club and all that fun stuff. But I learned a lot, and I apply that to cooking my meals. But typically when I'm preparing my meals, I haven't prepped them, I don't record them from the beginning. I don't prepare, because I'm just literally taking all the stuff I learned and being like, well, this will work well with this will work well with this, throw it all together, and I'm like, that actually looks really nice. Snap a picture, upload to Twitter. However, those of you who are a patron would have access to impromptu videos like that. Like, I'll actually record. Like, after I finish the meal, I snap the picture, I'll be like, alright, everyone, this is an impromptu cooking video. I didn't think of this while I was making the video, but since I've taken the picture now, I'm going to tell you what I put in this, and that way you can make it at home yourself. Unfortunately, I've already used the ingredients, so you can't see me mixing them together, but I can show you the bottles they were used, and I can tell you what I did. So like I said, that's not something that's really fit for Culinary Corner, because Culinary Corner shows you the full cooking, and I'm in my full cook's regalia. While these behind the scenes ones would be more like, I've just made something for myself, I haven't put on the full chef's attire, I haven't put on the cleanliness baklava, I haven't put on my apron and all, my chef's jacket and all that. I've literally just thrown everything together for my own personal use. And I'm like, people might enjoy this. But I think of that after the fact, not before the fact. The culinary videos are before the fact. I know before I begin filming Culinary Corner that this video I'm going to upload to YouTube, so I need to take this thing slow, steady. While the Culinary Corner behind the scenes will be like, well, this might interest some people. So that would again be a unlisted Patreon video, because I'll eventually come back to that same recipe and do a full Culinary Corner video on it, where I actually show you, like, here's what I used, and I took this much out of it and I poured it into here, I took this out of here and I put this into here, and I took this out of here and I put this into here, I washed my hands 12 times. As opposed to, well, here's the final result, and here's the stuff I put into it, which would be the behind the scenes stuff. Or, for example, another thing that would be on a behind the scenes video. How do you stream your own gaming? What equipment do you need? What are the settings? I've mentioned before on my streams that I use OBS. I've given people snapshots behind the scenes of that, but I've never really done a full behind the scenes of that. And the thing is, I don't really feel like I could do at this stage a really good video on it. I feel like I need to tinker with it a bit more. There's still some stuff in OBS that I haven't quite finalized. Like, for example, if you're on my Twitter, I'm a big fan of Culvihouse. I'm a big fan of DeBrostash. I follow their channels. But for the life of me, I don't know how they set up Stream Pay or the alert. So if someone subscribes, a little alert will pop up on the stream. I don't know how they did that. I'm still looking into that. And that would be part of the full video. I've signed up for Stream Pay, which allows you to tip the host of the videos stream. But I don't know how to integrate it into my videos. Again, that would be part of the full overview of how you set up your own gaming channel. But I can certainly go and do a video saying, well, this is OBS. These are the settings I have in OBS. This is where you get this information, like stream key you're going to need. This is how you split the videos. This is how you set up multiple videos. This is how you can put your picture-in-picture. Stuff like that. But it's missing major components of what would be relevant to how to do a gaming stream video. Like Stream Pay and alerts, right? I don't know at this moment right now how to do that. I'm still researching it. But I could certainly make a video on the other aspects, and then eventually I can merge it all together and then release the big video publicly to my YouTube. But until we reach that point, patrons would have access to all the snippets that would make up the segments of the larger video. For example, another one that's good is, let me scroll down a bit to my notes. How do you rip videos from your favorite DVDs so you can do your own music videos or reviews? Linkara has mentioned this. I know others have talked about this. If you want to become a member of the Power Force, and I know several of you want to become members of the Power Force, and you want to do your own reviews of Power Rangers, well, to become a member of Power Force, one of the requirements that Linkara has publicly stated is you have to use official sources for your videos, which means you can't be using TV rips or other unofficial sources. We all know where they're from, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. But if you want to become a Power Force member, you have to only use official sources, which means you have to get a Shout Factory DVD or a Lionsgate DVD. And then you've got to find a way of ripping that DVD to your computer so that you can take it into, in my case, I use Adobe Premiere Creative Cloud Edition. So that means you have to be able to rip it to your computer and then have it opened into Premiere Pro. Now, those of you who have been fans of Toku Saturday, you'll remember the bumper we had for the first 40 weeks was a simple little bumper that had still images. The simple fact of the matter is that the MKV files that Overtime uses for their subs will not import into Premiere. It took me 40 weeks to find a solution. It was an incredibly simple solution, one I should have figured out months ahead, but I didn't because I hadn't tried that method. But, like I said, that would be a smaller segment. Like, for example, how do you turn an MKV file into a file that Premiere will read? Well, now I know, but that's only one small segment of how you would make a video, an official video. I don't have any DVDs. I have unofficial sources. I have DVDs coming. One of the things that I'll be reviewing in the coming weeks is the Legacy Power Ranger collection, the giant big red head. And I'll be ripping that to my new computer, and then using that for future streams of Power Sunday. So instead of using the low quality TV rips, I'll be having the high quality DVD rips for Lightspeed Rescue and whatever future seasons I have. Nice, doesn't it? But to get there, I haven't got those DVDs. I haven't started trying to rip them. I suspect it'll be simple. I'll probably use the same steps I have, but I might need special software. Or I might not. All I know right now is how to take the unofficial sources that I have, specifically how to take the files from Overtime subs, convert them into a file that Premiere can read so that I can make the teasers. And the only reason I mentioned to make the teasers is because if you want to make videos like Database Ranger, or you want to make, well, Database Ranger is really the best example. If you want to make videos like Database Ranger, you have to be able to import them into Premiere so you can cross-cut them with your own crazy antics, behind the scenes, on the couch stuff like I am doing, your civilian stuff. And of course, in the same type of video, I'd also want to give people an overview of Premiere and how you could add special effects. But there's only so much of that I know right now. As a patron, you'd have access to all those little segments that make up parts of the whole, but not the entire whole, because the entire whole isn't fully researched. See where I'm going? Another good example. Maybe you saw my diagram on Twitter on how to build your own working lights and sound titanium morpher. Very cool idea, right? And I've also got one that I've been talking about that I haven't really premiered because I'm still working on the diagram for, like how to build your own dual LED screen SPD morpher with lights and sounds. Another one I'm working on, I asked Hassan Ahmed what type of morpher he would like. So I'd like to have 3 projects that I'm working on, so like when I finish one I can work on the next one. And so the next one is also relatively simple. It's be similar to titanium morpher, but it's the in-space morpher. So how would you make your own in-space morpher with working lights and electronics? Well, the titanium morpher, I have the parts already shipping to me. I'll begin soldering and testing and everything the next few days. But I don't have the case for it. Now I'm looking into 3D printing it. There are options that you can actually 3D print stuff. You just need to be able to provide the STL files, and they'll print it for you, and it'll be from a place that's local to you. But I haven't reached that stage yet, and I haven't created the STL file. I haven't asked the people that I work with who do art and 3D modeling to make the STL file. So all I'd have is the electronics. So I'd hold it up to the camera, and you'd have a bunch of electronics and wires, and it would make the Lightspeed rescue noise and beeping noises, and you'd have a couple of lights going off. But that's not a titanium morpher now, is it? So that would be a behind-the-scenes thing, because until I actually get the case ready, I could throw it into the case, show you the final result, strap it to my wrist, and say, titanium power! And so you hear it go, and you hear it make, the sound like the or whatever thing you're going to do, whether it be a communicator beep, whether it be a alert sound for a Megazord storm, or whether it be the Lightspeed rescue theme, or whatever it would be. Well, until it's actually in the case and it actually looks like a proper morpher on your wrist, all it is a bunch of electronics, isn't it? And the bunch of electronics would be the behind the scenes because, again, half of the video is missing, the case. And of course, the final video would have, here's the case, here's how I made the case, here's the files for making the case, and it's an owned IP, I can't own it, and it would just release publicly and all that fun stuff. So you can make your own titanium morpher. But half the video would also be, how do you solder these things together? How do you make the electronics work? How do you program the soundboard? How do you program the light board? But sound and light don't mean much if it's just a bunch of electronics, right? And wires. Or maybe you'd like to learn how to submit your own game to Nintendo and become a third-party developer like me. Well, I submitted my project about a year ago now. It took about 6 months after I'd submitted the proposal to them for them to call me on the phone. Yes, I actually spoke to a Nintendo representative on the phone. They asked me some questions about it. Then they sent me an NDA. I signed the NDA, and then they gave me access to the Nintendo developer forums, where I could then download the SDK files, all the programming software that I would need to work with, and of course order the actual dev kits. I had to do something similar for Microsoft to work with the Xbox One. And quite frankly, while I don't mind sharing how I got there, we haven't finished producing our final product yet. Our project's still in the early alpha development. So until the game is actually finalized, I don't really want to release part of the video of how you become a Nintendo third-party developer and produce a game. It should be one thing. But as a patron, you'd have access to those little snippets like, here's working with Unity. Here's how you create a survival shooter using the Unity tutorial, which we then will morph into the baseline for our fantasy post-apocalyptic MMO, because the survival shooter is a shooter game. It's a fixed perspective game, but it has the ability to spawn enemies, it has the ability to move a character, and to fire a weapon. That's a good baseline for an action RPG type style, because that gives you the ability to move your character, but you still don't have skills. You don't have leveling. You don't have equipment. You don't have multiple animations for the different skills. You can't have a dynamic camera following them, so it's only fixed camera. All those things would have to be modified from the base Unity tutorial. And that would be what the final video would be about. The entire process, from beginning to end. Making a game, submitting the proposal to Nintendo, getting the approval from Nintendo, converting it to Wii U, and then releasing it onto Wii U. Or maybe you've heard about this. I don't know if I can't remember if I released it to my Twitter, but I'm turning a Gosei Morpher into a cell phone case. Well, I've got, I haven't gotten it taken apart yet. I've got a spare Gosei Morpher. I've got the diagram of how it would be broken up, but I haven't actually done the physical work yet. So I could, for example, I could do a behind-the-scenes video showing the diagram and explaining the process of how it would work, but there'd be no final payoff, because the final payoff is showing you the final result after you've done all the work. Make sense? Makes sense. And these are the type of things that, as a member of as a patron, you would have access to all the behind-the-scenes stuff that isn't quite ready to release, the stuff that's already being released in bulk, but is being scheduled so that it's more reasonable for YouTube's schedule, so you actually will see everything. And if you don't want to be a patron, that's perfectly fine. You'll still see everything, but now you'll just see it in a more slow trickle out, as I had originally intended it, and in a way that won't have YouTube keeping you from seeing my videos completely. So with that, everyone, I wish you all a good day, and may the powers protect you. Good night, every pony. Peace out.